Am I the a-hole for telling my brother's wife that he doesn't own my home? So I inherited my childhood 3-bedroom home after my mother passed away 5 years ago, along with a good chunk of cash. I live in that home right now, and not to brag, but it's a beautiful home. Now, I have a half-brother. We will call him Blake, and we share the same father, also dead. Blake is a deadbeat. Can't keep a job, jumps from relationship to relationship, make excuses, and blame everyone else for his problems. Just really not a good guy. But with my parents gone, he is the only family I have left. So I try to work around it, and he has been living with me for 1.5 years now after getting kicked out of his own apartment for not paying rent. Then, he went and got his newest girlfriend knocked up, and decided that meant they needed to get married right away. They got married at our local courthouse. Now I agreed to have her move in. She's carrying my niece or nephew after all. It's been 3 months since they got married, and she moved in, and she'd been rude, demanding, and just outright the worst the whole time. Originally, I chalked it up to being pregnant, but then one day she comes up to me and tells me that I have to move out. I'm confused and ask her what she means. She goes on about how with the baby coming it's time to leave because they need a space. I tell her she has no right to kick me out of my own house, and she comments that since she married my brother, the house was part of hers now too, and that it's weird to have your husband's brother living with you and your kid. I realized then that she thought my brother owned at least part of the house, so I explained that she and my brother were in fact living with me, not the other way around, letting her know I fully own it, and my brother has no rights to it, and neither did she. She goes quiet and runs off. When my brother comes home, they get in a huge fight, and she leaves to go to her mother's. My brother is now mad at me for telling her the truth. Honestly, up until this point I thought she knew, but my brother claims he didn't tell her he owns it. She knew the house was inherited, and since we're brothers, she assumed he owned half, and he just never corrected her. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother's wife that he doesn't own my home? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, and here's a tip. Get rid of them. Both of them. Have a nice day. Your brother is about to be a father to some poor unfortunate child and needs to start adulting. Right now, you're just enabling him to continue to be feckless. Not the a-hole. Decent chance she scarpers off, now that she realizes her marriage does not give her a share of the house. Getting pregnant and forcing marriage may have been accidentally on purpose, under the assumption half-brother had assets, which would explain why she's not so happy. Of course, if OP is silly enough to continue underwriting her life, she'll stick around. If it was accidentally on purpose, then if she's truly plucky, there is a decent chance she'll see whether she can change horses. It's a tricky maneuver to jump from one saddle to another while underway, but she may just see it as an enjoyable challenge. Not the a-hole, but you are foolish for letting them mooch off you like this. Prime example of why found family or none can be better than given. If Opie put his effort into his meaningful friendships rather than these two gluttons, he'd be better for it. Not the a-hole, but Opie, have you talked to a lawyer? I've read about people finding loopholes and somehow ending up with property that wasn't originally theirs. Make sure you protect yourself. Typically that happens when the owner doesn't live there, and the other party has lived there for years and years. The girlfriend discovered the brother owned the house, and then didn't demand he leave still. So she clearly has some rational thoughts in her head. Adverse possession has to be hostile. That is, if they have explicit permission to live there, they are never going to just end up with the property. The worst they can do is drag an eviction battle out. Next story. Am I the a-hole for losing it with my former mother-in-law and saying I don't want to help her granddaughter? My ex-husband died 6 months ago. We were divorced for 3 years. Prior to that, after he cheated on me for about 6 years with a woman he married after our divorce. Ex and I share 3 children together. A 17-year-old son, 16-year-old daughter, and a 15-year-old daughter. Ex got his second wife pregnant while we were married, which is how the affair got revealed in the first place. I kicked him out and cut ties, except for semi-civil co-parenting. I have never had anything to do with his daughter who is now 3. After my ex died, my former mother-in-law took her in temporarily. She's in poor health, and my ex was her only child. The mother of the child had no family who was willing to take her, so she wanted to try and keep her out of foster care. My former mother-in-law asked me about 2 months ago to consider raising her granddaughter, seeing as she's the half-sibling of my children. I told her I did not want to do that. She spoke to my children, and they refused to ask me on her behalf. She suggested that my children might want to keep her in their family, and how could I deny them that chance? So I asked my children if they had any thoughts or plans to take her on once any of them were 18, and they all said no. My son said his grandma had mentioned that to him, but he didn't care. My girls share a similar sentiment, though she did not ask them directly. Former mother-in-law reached out again, and I told her my answer was still no. She suggested that her granddaughter is my family, but I cut her off and said that is not true. I told her I am not the child's mother, stepmother, and nor anything that would imply family. She told me she will need to let a caseworker know in the coming weeks that she needs a foster home if I can't take her. She told me to do it for her granddaughter, that she's innocent. How can I not love her? And rambled on a lot about that. So I lost my cool, snapped at her, and told her I don't want to help her granddaughter, and foster care is the best place for her if she can't raise her. Former mother-in-law told me I was a horrible, evil woman, and that it was no wonder my children don't care about their sister when I had that attitude about her, and she hoped one day it wouldn't come back to bite me in the butt. Am I the a-hole for the way I spoke to her and for what I said about her granddaughter? Edited to add, X and his wife, aka the mother of the child, both died. It was a car crash. Not the a-hole. Yes, the child is a half-sibling to your children, but that does not create an obligation on your part. Some people are able to take on roles like your mother-in-law is suggesting, and some people can't/won't. There is nothing wrong with that. Your ex-mother-in-law needs to back off. This was her choice. Now she can deal with it. And how great of a life would that child even have? Being raised by the person who was cheated on, and her being a constant reminder of the infidelity. Seems kinder to give her a clean slate with a new family that can love her without baggage. To clarify, the clean slate would be the foster family not seeing the daughter as the product of an affair. Unfortunately, I don't think there are many outcomes where she doesn't go through trauma. I've heard my share of stories from adults who were the love child, and it's really heartbreaking to hear how the immediate and extended family couldn't unsee the betrayal, and the child suffered. I had one woman tell me she felt guilty for being alive. Apparently, she's choosing the path where she loses all of her grandchildren too. Raising a 3-year-old when your youngest is 15? Even if it was a good friend's kid, it's a lot to ask, and depending who, too much to ask. I would definitely cut contact if she's trying to guilt the children because of this. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. It is insane for the ex-mother-in-law to try to rope you into this. He went above and beyond even talking to her kids about this. That child has been dealt a terrible hand, and I hope she isn't failed by the foster system. I mean, it's not insane. It's desperate. I can understand 100% why she's trying to do it, but also why it's never going to happen. Everyone has been dealt a crappy hand here, and it's obviously gotten to an inevitable and pleasant conclusion. She's lashed out, which she obviously shouldn't, but the whole thing is just sad. No a-holes here. Just a terrible situation that pushed people too far. No a-holes here. You are completely within your rights to say no, and I don't blame you. At the same time, I cannot fault a grieving mother for fighting tooth and nail to try to protect her grandchild from being mistreated in the foster care system. This is an awful situation all around. Next story. Am I the a-hole for liquidating my daughter's college fund to keep our dream house? I, 50 female, lost my husband 4 years ago. I also have a 16-year-old daughter. My late husband left me everything and told me to trust his lawyer. My husband had worked for 20 years as a doctor and did some minor investing, so I inherited over 7 figures. A year later, I decided to list our home of 12 years and received an offer too good to refuse. With the inheritance, as well as the influx of cash from selling the house, I decided to move my daughter and I to Malibu because we always dreamed of a home next to the beach. But my husband was exceptionally tight-fisted and called homes their money pits. We found a beautiful home by the sea. I never personally handled anything regarding buying a home before, so I did not anticipate all the extra costs beyond the sticker price. But my daughter was so excited, so I decided to go for it. My late husband's lawyer was furious at my decision, so I decided to stop taking his calls, and I ended up signing with a money manager who said that we'd be passively earning 90% of what surgeons earned per year. But the money manager ended up tanking a lot of our investments. I took the dwindling money out and made my own investments, which made it worse. And long story short, because all of that, I only have around $35,000 available to me now, not to mention our debts. With the amount available to me, I'm looking at only being able to pay 1 month of a mortgage/upkeep, and then I'm basically out of luck until my business gets clients. However, The place where we do have a significant amount of money is the fund my husband started for our daughter. With the money there, I could prevent our credit cards from being shut down and not have to worry about the mortgage for many more months. So I ended up liquidating my daughter's college fund. I told her about it today, and she was furious and said she cannot believe all her dad's work is gone. She also said she won't be supporting me for my retirement. Am I the a-hole for trying to fix my mistakes and trying to keep our house? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. You decided not to listen to the lawyer. You decided to move on to an extremely expensive place. And you decided to trust someone's shady advice. Now you're taking away your daughter's chances of being able to go to college loan-free? That money's not yours. You should be ashamed of yourself. He has it right. Malibu's a money pit for empty Airbnbs. One grocery store on the highway with outrageous prices, and almost no food except for tourist traps. Opie essentially gambled her 7-figure life savings, ruined her daughter's future, and now asks if she's an a-hole. Literally couldn't make some of the stuff up that I read on the sub. Yes, Opie, you're a selfish a-hole. You're the a-hole. You made an extremely poor financial decision and disregarded those around you who were offering you more sound financial advice. Having a home near the beach doesn't mean you need to move to Malibu, but I digress. You are absolutely the a-hole here. You robbed your daughter of a chance to start her life off comfortably and took money that was never intended for you. Sell this godforsaken money pit of a home, get somewhere you can actually afford, and take a class in personal finance management. Also, grow up? Opie literally ghosted the attorney because they weren't telling her what she wanted to hear. I have a few lawyers in my social circle, and this is extremely common. From the sounds of it, emphasis on the extremely. This is what we want to do. That's illegal. You'll almost definitely be caught. It's a waste of your time and money. Well, I want to do it. I advise the exact opposite. Here's a list of reasons this is a terrible idea. God, this is why people hate lawyers. You don't get it. As a conversation I think I've heard complained about dozens of times at least. Lol. Why would someone hire a lawyer for legal advice and then completely fly in the face of it? Hell if I know. I'm a lawyer. Can't confirm. People ask lawyers whether they can or should do something and then become furious when we tell them no. You don't hear from them again until the thing they did anyway blows up in their face, at which point they are still furious. But this time it's because you didn't stop them. Just like on AITA, people are more interested in validation than the truth. And this is one of many reasons why I am no longer in legal practice. Last story. Am I the a-hole for ruining a wedding, although I told the bride I shouldn't sit next to my ex? I was in a relationship from 18 to 24 years old. He was 5 years older. He wanted children and marriage in the next 2 years, but I didn't want that at a time, so I broke up with him. I was sad about the breakup, but I knew that it was the right decision. I wanted to study without a child as I was 1 year away from finishing, travel with friends, and enjoying my 20s. After 1 year of our breakup, I had a one-night stand with a friend who had a crush on me for years, and after realizing I was pregnant, we stayed together. We moved together to another city because of our jobs. After the birth of our daughter, we married. I couldn't be happier with my husband, and we are now together for nearly 5 years and happier than ever. I didn't know if my ex knows that I became a mother, and since I moved away while being pregnant, I missed a lot of birthdays of our mutual friends, and he didn't follow me on social media. Now it's the wedding from one of our mutual friends, and I was happy about the invite. But then I got a message from another one of our friends who told me that nobody told my ex that I became a mother and married, and that he didn't seriously date anybody else after the breakup. He's successful in his job and concentrates on that, but his friends are worried that he is lonely. They requested that I come without my child. We actually had this planned before, so my husband and me have enough time to reconnect, and my mother-in-law would be so happy to have our daughter overnight. And also to not mention my husband, which I disagreed. So I asked the bride if she wanted me not to come, and told her the request from our other friends, and she told me that I should definitely come, and that she doesn't see any problem with it. When we arrived at the wedding, we realized that we were seated next to my ex, which I found strange. I went quietly to the bride and told her that would probably be not the best idea, but she brushed it off. My ex barely talked to me but drank a lot. My husband chatted with another person from our table and mentioned our daughter after 2 hours sitting at the table. That's when my ex lost it. He made a big scene and accused me of lying to him about not wanting children. It was so embarrassing. And ultimately, my husband and I left while my ex got carried away by other guests. Since then, I got calls from mutual friends calling me the a-hole because I rubbed my happiness on my ex's face, and I'm a little bit confused. The bride isn't happy and accused me of ruining the wedding since I could just not mention my daughter, and that she was sad about the scene it caused. My ex lost it. He made a big scene and accused me of lying to him about not wanting children. You didn't cause a scene, your ex did. He's the a-hole. And you know what? Your friend is the a-hole too for sitting y'all next to each other, knowing all that history, and she still thought it would be okay? Nope. Seriously, why the heck would she put Opie and her husband next to her ex? They say those that stir the turd pot get to lick the spoon. There was no way the bride didn't know what she was doing. Either she was hoping for drama or hoping to make Opie feel like crap once she saw her ex. Not the a-hole. Oh, please. They sat you next to your ex on purpose. There was no way they didn't know he wouldn't behave that way when drinking. It's on him for acting that way, not you. You even asked to be moved. Total setup by her so-called friends thinking they could get you two back together. Pretty obvious whose side they were on when they broke up. The ex probably made himself look like a victim because the woman he wanted wouldn't marry and have kids with him when he was telling her to. And for the past 6 years, they've had to watch this poor sap be miserable that he couldn't control Opie. That even now he feels she owes him an explanation because she had the audacity to have children. And no one tried to get him to move on. Opie's so-called friends probably hoped she would show up alone to not upset the ex, and that they would magically fall back in love. I think the bride was hoping she would see her ex and realize what a huge mistake she made, drop her husband and baby, then run off into the sunset with the ex. Am I the a-hole for throwing my siblings in foster care so I could have a better life? I have roughly too many siblings and even more step-siblings. Between my parents and my latest stepfather, we had 8 kids living here. Myself, 19 female, 3 half-siblings on my mom's side, 15, 11, and 9. 4 step-siblings, 14, 12, 9, and 6. And 1 full sister, 6 female. Things have never been particularly good or stable, but now we're at rock bottom. My mother and stepfather are going to be going away for a long time and everyone is in a rush to get all these kids into homes. I'm the only one who's over 18, so everyone wants me to do it. I don't want to. I had gotten an opportunity. My grandma on my father's side offered to have 6 female and I move in with her, and even pay for me to go to college. The thing is, she lives several states away. I talked to social services about this and got the answer that I could move 6 female without a problem because our parents were able to voluntarily give me guardianship of her and I'm her full sister. The rest I could only take in if I stayed in the States because they would be a full foster care placement though. I'm sorry, but being forced to stay here would destroy my future. I could definitely survive, but I would be stuck in this horrible place working paycheck to paycheck. I could never have a real life, so I made the obvious choice. The social workers were nice enough to arrange it to where 6 female and I weren't just standing in front of them during the pickup, but obviously they know exactly why they're now in care. The 4 of them that have phones have been texting and calling me nonstop. Some of them for help and some to just scream at me for abandoning them. I know the system is going to be really bad for them because of where they are and their ages, but I just can't do it. I can't blow this. This is mine and 6 females' first chance for a real life. And I feel like I owe it to both of us to take it. Am I in the wrong here? The kids and my mom think I am. My grandma thinks I should have done something but can't say what, and wouldn't let them in her house even if it could happen. The only person who doesn't think worse of me is 6 female, who says she likes the quiet, but obviously doesn't know the full story. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your siblings should be mad at your parents, not you. They were the ones putting everyone in this position. You are 19. In no way can or should you be the parent to that many kids. Don't fault yourself. You were put in that situation too, not just them. Good luck to all of you. And have siblings and step-siblings, there should be other parents and grandparents who could take them in. The full sibling is the only one where there isn't another parent, and it sounds like grandparent is stepping up for her and you. Not the a-hole. Exactly what stuck out to me too. The half-siblings presumably have fathers out there, and the step-siblings have a mother. Even if those parents are also out of the picture for whatever reason, I assume they have families. So that means not a single adult from 4 possible families was willing to step up for any of the kids? And yet they all judged the 19-year-old for not doing it. I feel for those kids and I don't blame them for being upset, but it's horrible that mom and everyone else is encouraging them to direct the anger at OP. This is not her fault at all. I don't know where any of the extended families are except mine and 6 females. I wasn't close to either of the fathers of my half-siblings. If I ever met their families, it was maybe once. My mom's family aren't people I would go see voluntarily. I have some involvement in the foster care system in my country. It is absolutely amazing how often desperate social workers will try to come up with a kinship care solution that a 5-year-old could see would never work. The problem is that the system is in crisis. There aren't enough foster carers, and social workers have caseloads that are too high. So in desperation, they will try to stitch together some kinship, family care, plan that usually falls apart in a couple of months. There is no way in the world that an 18-year-old should ever be approved to take on 6 or 7 children. It should never even have been offered as an option to you because you don't have the capacity to raise those children and care for them. You made the right choice. It's heartbreaking, but it's right. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not letting my friend and her daughter live with me and my boyfriend? Me, female 25, and my boyfriend Marcus, male 29, have been together for 3 years, lived together for 2. I've known Ellie, female 24, since we were kids. We grew up down the street from each other and have remained close friends all these years. She has a 3-year-old daughter, Heather. The guy that got her pregnant ended up being a total piece of crap and left her as soon as she gave birth. He then signed away his parental rights and is no contact. Ellie and Heather currently live with her parents and they help her financially. Ellie's family is from France and her parents have moved here before she was born. They decided they want to move back to France next year so they can be closer to the rest of the family. Ellie wants to stay here, but she's not financially stable enough to live on her own. Marcus and I bought a 3-bedroom house to move into in January. We wanted the extra space so we could have room for our 2 dogs, and we will use the extra rooms as a guest room and an office since I have a hybrid job. An office half the time / work from home the other half. Ellie asked if her and Heather could move into the guest room for a couple years while she saves money to get her own place. I have a few issues with this. 1, she has a kid. Nothing against Heather, she's a sweet girl and I've babysat her a few times. But me and Marcus are child-free, so we don't want to have to change the way we live to accommodate one. Things like child-proofing the place, potentially being woken up at night to a crying kid are things we just don't want. 2, Ellie isn't trustworthy with finances. She doesn't make moves to better her life. Her family paid for online college classes and she failed out. They pay for childcare while Ellie works but she keeps quitting jobs. She spends money on new clothes for herself instead of saving, etc. She does not contribute to bills or groceries for her parents whatsoever. Basically lives there for free. 3, Marcus and I just want our own space for us and our dogs. And we've worked really hard to save up the money for this house, and we just want it to be for us. 4, it would be for at least a year or 2. We wanted a guest room for friends and family to be able to stay with us when visiting, but only for temporary stays, like 1 to 2 weeks max. Marcus agrees with me on all these points. However, Ellie called me in tears saying that she has no other option, and that she wants her and Heather to stay in the US but can't do it alone. She practically begged me, saying that I was an a-hole for having all this extra space and not using it to help her out of her situation when we've been friends for so long. She told me if the situation was reversed, she would do it for me. I don't want to have to see her move away and be unhappy, but the whole setup would just make us uncomfortable. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole at all. Those couple of years would basically be you with a child you didn't sign up for. And honestly, it would probably end up a lot longer than a couple of years. It's your house. You decide who stays and who doesn't. And her lack of planning is not your emergency. Ellie has other options. Either get her act together or move back to France with her parents. Not the a-hole. Right? She's acting desperate. But she has a home waiting for her in France if she's unwilling to not be a lazy flake. And it sounds like Ellie hasn't paid for rent, utilities, childcare, or food in years. She should absolutely have enough money saved to put a deposit on an apartment or something. This begs another question. Who will watch Heather while Ellie is at work or out? I'm assuming she will want Opie to watch the kid when she's working from home. If Ellie can't support herself and her child, she needs to move to France with her parents. Not expect to get the same treatment her parents give her from her friends. That is asking way too much of Opie and her husband. They may be lifelong friends, but it's not their responsibility to support her. Not the a-hole. Ellie has had months/years living with her parents to better her position and hasn't done so. Even though he signed away his rights, she could pursue the father for child support, but presumably hasn't done so. Why should you and your husband do more for Ellie and her daughter? House them, probably pay their utilities and maybe even feed them, than Ellie had done herself. If you let her move in, Ellie won't save. She'll just spend her money just like she always has. If Ellie wants a free ride, she can move to France with her parents. If she wants a free ride, she can just not. Because that's not the way the real world works. Not in the USA, not in France, not in Canada, not anywhere. Her parents are no longer responsible for her as an adult, and they're not obligated to pay thousands of dollars/euros for her to move to France so she can continue to leech off of them. She needs to get a job and support her child, and maybe it will take her being homeless temporarily to pull her head out of her behind and learn that. I feel bad for the daughter though. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not caring for a child I said I wouldn't care for? I'm 28 female, am child-free. I don't even really like kids. My sister, 23 female Amber, has a kid, and because it's a pretty close-knit family, she's pretty used to everyone pitching in to help. She said she was going out for a few hours and was stopping at my house to pick up a package delivered to me by mistake. We have the same street number on similar-sounding streets. Think 25 Hirsch and 25 Hurst, so this happens pretty often. When Amber got to my house, she put down her kid and said, "Thanks for watching him, by the way." I asked her what she was talking about. She said she was thanking me for watching her kid as well. I said that I never agreed to it and was not okay with that. But she said, "We're sisters, family helps family," and ended up leaving. So I didn't. I left the kid right in my entryway where Amber left him and just went about my day. I didn't leave the house or anything, but I said I'm not a babysitter and I wasn't one. Well, Amber got mad at me when she came back 4 hours later and the kid had a full diaper and was crying when he saw her. I told her I said I wasn't watching her kid, and she's lucky I didn't call the police. But Amber said that not wanting to babysit doesn't mean you don't do it. The entire family sides with her, and Amber says she's cutting me off until I apologize and make more of an effort with my nephew. I've gotten nasty messages from relatives galore, and the only one who doesn't think me a raging witch is my dad, who doesn't involve at all in family drama. I do love my sister and understand family is family, but am I really the a-hole for not doing a job I expressly said I don't want? Now for the top comments. Everyone sucks here. You left a baby unsupervised for 4 hours? No matter what point you were trying to prove, are you really willing to risk the life of a baby to make it? The only good solution here was to tell her you wouldn't take care of the kid and tell her that if she leaves, you'll call the police. Then you call the police when she leaves. You don't let a kid unsupervised for 4 hours, even if your sister sucks. You don't let a kid unsupervised for 4 hours to prove a point. The baby was in a carrier. They left a child in the entryway in a carrier for 4 hours. Honestly disgusting of Opie. Everyone sucks here. Yes, and people are missing the fact that babies have died in carriers from positional asphyxiation and strangulation. Is Opie nuts? You would not leave a puppy out there like that. It can literally die. By all means, call the police or CPS to teach her a lesson. But risking a kid's life to prove some sort of point is WTF, mate, territory. The only one even more insane is the mom. How in the world does she leave her own baby alone like that without an adult explicitly taking responsibility? Truly, a lot of people in this world should not breed. This whole family's absolutely guano crazy. Everyone sucks here. Hard. You're the a-hole. You punished a tiny baby for the actions of an adult. Punishing the innocent is always an a-hole move. Doing it to a literal infant in diapers is unconscionable. You should be ashamed of yourself. Glad she plans to be child-free. At least some self-awareness, I guess. This is less child-free and more like anti-kid. Child-free people aren't cruel to kids. They just don't want them for themselves. She's what called aggressively child-free. They're some of the cruelest losers allowed to walk among the general public. Pathetic in every way and willing to let a child suffer for their own values. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to babysit my ex's stepkids? Plus updates. My ex Thomas and I have been split for around 4 years. We have 2 kids together, twins, a boy and a girl aged 12. He married Sandy about 18 months ago. She has 2 children between 7 to 10 years old. Our current custody agreement is I have the kids 2 weeks on 1 week off when they go to Thomas's. It's a private agreement we have as it works best with his job as he travels, so we make sure for that week he's home. Recently I got a text from Sandy asking if I could come pick the kids up. She had plans and my ex had been held up at work. Wasn't a problem. I was on my way home from work so I could swing by and get them. I rang my ex to confirm that's what he wanted and also said it's around 5:30. I'll keep them for the night. He said that was great and would let Sandy know. When I got to their place, my kids opened the door and were packed and ready to go. The kids called out that I was there and they were leaving, and she yelled out a goodbye. As I was pulling out of the driveway, Sandy comes running out waving her arms. I stop and ask what the problem was, and she said why I didn't take her kids. I said that wasn't what I agreed to and I would never agree to that. She replied, "Why not? I'm always babysitting your kids." I said that's something between you and Thomas, but my kids are my responsibility. And I'm sorry, but I don't know your children well enough to take them back to my house and have them stay. I left, and within 2 minutes, Thomas is on the phone begging me to go back and get Sandy's kids because she always watches ours. I said the same thing to him and hung up. I got the kids home, and while they were having dinner, I asked how often does Sandy watch them. My son said they normally don't see their dad till the weekend. Sometimes they see him in the morning, but it's normally Sandy who is with them during the week. I left the kids to watch TV and rang Thomas back. He started cussing me out about Sandy's kids. I let him finish and asked why he thought it would be appropriate for a woman that those kids hardly know look after them at my house. He said again that Sandy watched our kids, so fair is fair, and I've also upset her kids as they were looking forward to the sleepover. I rang my sister to vent and she flipped it on me and said I was taking my issues with Sandy and Thomas out on Sandy's kids. I don't have any issue with either of them, but I'm starting to feel like I was the a-hole, but I made no promises to her kids. Not the a-hole. That's just not how custody works. You aren't obligated to take care of your ex's stepkids. At this point, I would ask him if he wants to modify custody. Obviously, he is taking this as some sort of favor she is doing for you by babysitting your kids. Take that power off the table. If this is such a burden that she feels entitled to reciprocal childcare, I can certainly take that off both of your plate. And then there is no obligation that can even be inferred. Yep, get all of their answers in text about how often the ex is actually spending time with the kids and how they both claim she is babysitting. If he isn't spending the time with them, he doesn't need them that often. Then the new wife doesn't really have anything to say, aside from the obvious fact that Opie's never obligated to watch these other kids. Info. She says she babysits the kids during Thomas week. She has never babysat for me during my time. Update. I wasn't aware that Thomas was MIA during the week. I always ask the kids how was it at their dad's, what they did, etc., but I never grill them for info, and they haven't mentioned before he hadn't been home. I also don't want to go guns blazing to my lawyers and changing our custody agreement. In our country, not America, it's very common to have private agreements done with our lawyers and not in front of a judge. I have messaged Thomas to have a catch-up about the kids. Info. For everyone asking about right to first refusal, this is not a law in our country. Final update. Thanks for all your comments. I've just gotten back from a catch-up with Thomas. We have agreed for right now I'll have the kids full-time and I'll have them every second weekend. But I have also made him agree that he'll take them out during the week twice a month. And when his work settles down, we will go back to the original agreement with him being at home. Otherwise, I will be going for full legal custody through the courts.